Hi, my name is Anna Marie Smith, and I've been thinking about a small thing in a big way. About a year ago, I was the outreach coordinator for Tiny, a documentary that chronicles a couple building a tiny house. I traveled with the Tiny team to Colorado, where we hitched their tiny house to a truck and drove 5 hours to the film screening at Telluride Mountain Film Festival. This rural tiny house got me thinking about ways people are downsizing their homes. There are two main trends in micro-living in the US: tiny houses in rural areas and micro-apartments in major cities. Now, zooming in on micro-apartments, they're all under 400 square feet, and they're usually in densely populated cities. These modular complexes have become an international trend. They feature multifunctional furniture and modern interiors. Micro-apartments efficiently use the same space for entertaining, working, and sleeping. Cities including Portland, Seattle, Los Angeles, San Francisco, and Boston have all jumped on the micro-apartment bandwagon. But my primary focus is on the new micro-unit building in New York City. Now, many people have asked me, aren't we all kind of living in micro-apartments in New York? But really, the apartments you might be living in are old pre-war buildings that have poorly placed radiators and kitchens. Right now, building a micro-apartment is illegal in New York. This is due to zoning and housing codes. There's a 1987 policy preventing new complexes with units under 400 square feet. Now, for reference, this wall is 452 square feet, so in New York, you cannot build any apartment unit smaller than this wall. The origin of these regulations date back to tenement houses. In the late 18th and early 19th century, the city had what were called multiple occupancy buildings, and overcrowding caused disease and major health issues. But today, the minimum square footage is at 400 square feet, and it's still enforced. In New York City, we have a housing crisis. According to the 2010 US Census, 33% of people in New York are single and living alone. 15% of households are couples with no children. That's 48% of our city's renters. Yet, only 1.5 of New York City's rental housing is a studio or one-bedroom apartment ready for occupancy. That means half the people in this audience right now are looking for part of the 1.5% of apartments that are available for single people. In addition, population is projected to grow to nearly 9 million by 2030. Finding an affordable apartment is already a challenge. With current population growth, the housing crisis is only going to get worse. Mayor Bloomberg recognized the need for safe, affordable, simple housing options. He pardoned the 400 square foot policy for a competition called Adapt NYC. This tower is projected to open in 2015. And the project is an experiment to create the first contemporary micro-apartment building in New York City. Bloomberg's goal is to see if the 400 square foot policy should be modified. If this building proves successful, they may amend the policies so that micro-units can be built in the future. Now, after speaking to architects of this project and inhabitants of various tiny houses and micro-apartments, I quickly realized that the most important aspect of each micro-home was not the architecture of the space, but the inhabitants themselves. So there are three primary goals for designing for the inhabitant. First, the resident must have a choice in their living situation. Anthropologist Edward T. Hall coined the phrase proxemics for the study of personal territory. When he explores living areas, Hall explains that Americans have different cultural conditionings that make living in small spaces a challenge. In order for small dwellings to thrive, people must decide to live in them. For example, tiny homes have been posed as a solution for homeless populations. But this concept is flawed. If micro-living is not a resident's personal choice, the psychological effects of living in a closet-sized home can lead to mental health problems. A person must be willing also to dramatically downsize. During the Great Depression, a middle-class worker owned a wardrobe of less than 15 items. Today, Americans average 92 pieces of clothing. The people moving into micro-units must be prepared to eliminate most of their possessions. Secondly, inhabitants must embrace the modern aesthetic of micro-apartments. Micro-apartments have a sleek industrial look, and they all follow modernist design principles, and their furnishings are tremendously practical. With this in mind, cost can be a big issue. From the Murphy bed to multifunctional desks, the price of furnishing a small place can be pretty steep. Affordable furniture should be a priority. As micro-units become available in the United States, designers must think through smartly designed, inexpensive furniture options. And lastly, shared economies are essential in designing for the inhabitant. Moving to a micro-apartment is sacrificing personal space while gaining shared spaces and services. With tiny living, the park becomes your living room. Residents must leave their home and have access to well-designed systems for shared resources. Buildings need public lounge spaces, bike storage, community gardens, and access to public transportation. It's the job of the micro-apartment planners to make sure these things are available. In American culture, we view space as a birthright, but that mindset is changing. As we find solutions for housing needs in urban places, micro-apartments will become a part of our residential landscape. Changes must begin on a city level. There's a mismatch between housing options and housing needs, and current policies impede those design solutions. In addition to modifying the 400 square foot restriction, the city needs to establish incentives to encourage developers to build micro-apartments, waiving parking requirements, adding square footage bonuses, adapting affordability standards. Micro-apartments may not be as lucrative as other housing options from a developer's perspective, so cities must find a way to support them. And from an urban planning perspective, micro-apartments will only become a contemporary housing typology if the inhabitant is at the center of the design. People will choose to live in spaces that are small when the neighborhood has essential resources. Many micro-living designs are extreme and not viable options on a mass scale. Designers must create small apartments that can be easily replicated. Our residential landscape must adapt to the country's housing needs. These dwellings may seem small, but their impact on American housing could be tremendous. Thank you.